Today we are going to be talking about worms. And I went out and I collected some on my driveway. And I also bought a few at the gas station in the fishing bait section. So we've got lots of worms to look at today. And let's get to worms. Yay, worms. I love worms. They're so cool. So we call this Ask a Worm. So we have a worm today. And as we do some of these activities with our worms, I'll tell you what you need. I went out and I actually bought some worms at a gas station, but this one I found right out in front of my garage, and it was bigger and fatter than the ones that I bought. So I thought we'd take a look at this worm up close. So I hope you have some worms at your house, or if you know, you can just watch the ones here on screen. And I'm going to wet this paper towel just a little bit because I don't want my worm to dry out. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at this worm. Take a look at him up close. Well, what questions might we ask about a worm? We're calling this Ask a Worm. Look at how long my worm is. I just bothered him a little bit, and look how long he stretched out. Whoa, and he moved a little too. Whoa, let's see. I think I will ask him a question. Hey, worm, where's your head? You know, people kind of think that worms are a little bit creepy looking because, you know, they don't have any arms or legs or eyes. Do you see a nose? It just kind of looks really different. So I'm going to say, hey, worm, where's your head? How can we tell? Well, you know, sometimes we can tell by the way in the direction that he moves. But not always, because worms can move forward and backwards. Look at wow, where is that worm's head? Well, let's see if we can answer that question. Okay. When I'm trying to get him to move, but he's not. Usually they'll move forward. And you can take a look and find out which direction they're going by the way they're moving. But this one, his back end is actually moving faster. Oh, there he goes. Right here. Okay. So when you look at a worm up close, and I hope you can look at your worms up close too, can you see some little segments in that worm? Yeah, there's little segments, and when they move, they stretch those segments out and then pull them together. And then if you take a look at the worm, there's a little spot on his body right there. It's a little smoother than up there. And I'm bothering him a lot. Look at that. There, he's stretching out his segments. And then there's a little spot that's smoother. And that's called the clitium. And actually, this end, if you take a look, even if we stretch out the worm, is shorter than this end. So there's the clitium. And oh, this end right here, really pointy. It's shorter between here and here, and here and here. Oh, that is the worm's head. And if we look close underneath, you can kind of even see where his mouth might be right underneath. But you can definitely see the segments that stretch out and pull together when a worm moves. But worms can actually move forward and backwards. So there's the head. So if I go all the way around down to this end, that's his tail. And worms do poop, so that is where the poop comes out. Now, if you have a worm, I want to say, hey, worm, how do you move without legs? You move by stretching out your segments, but also on your body, you have little, almost hair-like things called cilia, and you grab onto things with them. So if you have a worm and you don't mind touching him a little bit, stick a little bit of water in your hand so he has something to slide around on, and let him crawl. Be really gentle with it. Let him crawl on your hand, and you can feel the cilia. Ooh, little kind of rough edges on the underside of his body that kind of cling to you. You can feel them. They're rough. Now he just kind of rolled over. But it's fun to watch a worm. So, hey, worm, now I know where your head is. Right up there. And now I know where your tail is. And now I kind of know how you move without legs, because you stretch those segments out, hang on to things with your cilia, little rough parts that are almost like hairs on your body, but they're not. Whoa, look at how long that is. I wonder how long he is. He's bigger than I can stretch out my hand. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. Okay. So we know we find lots of worms, especially on a day like today. It rained last night, and that's how I found this guy in front of my garage, because he came up out of the ground. But I wonder, what do worms like? Do they like places that are damp or places that are dry? You know, a couple of days ago, it hadn't rained in a long time, and it was really dry, and I didn't see hardly any worms anywhere. And I am going to show us how to do an experiment now, so we can tell if worms really like it wet or dry. So I'm going to move this guy over and cover him up a little bit so he doesn't crawl off my plate and end up somewhere in my den. So to do this experiment, you need a paper plate, like I have right here, and a piece of paper towel. Whoops. A little bit of water in a spoon. Okay, there's my paper towel. And yeah, wet or dry. So yeah, for this one, we just need a piece of paper towel and a paper plate and some spoon and some water. So what you're going to do is kind of fold your paper towel in half like that and stick it on your plate. And what you want to do is take and only put about half of a little spoonful of water on half of your paper towel. Now, paper towels are weird. They suck things up. They suck the water up and spread it all over the paper towel. So I'm putting my hand kind of on half of it and just putting a little spoon by a little spoon. And it won't be exactly half, but it'll be partially there. Now I'm going to stop. And I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I'm going to hold it up to my camera. Can you see where half of my paper towel is wet and half of my paper towel is dry? Okay, so now I'm going to use some of my worms from the gas station, and I am going to put them on my paper plate. I got to find them first in all my dirt. I'm going to put, oh, I found one. There it is. And I'm going to pick them up gently, not squeezing them. And I'm going to stick them on my paper plate. And I'm going to see where he goes. I'm going to do 2 of them. Whoops, now I'm getting dirt on my paper plate. Wait, okay, oh, here's another one. Okay. All right, so this might take a little time. So, and I'm going to make him not go off my paper plate. All right, now let's see. I'm going to put one on the dry side. And actually, I'm going to put them both on the dry side and see if they stay there. There's an experiment. What do you think they will do? Oh boy, the bigger one has already found the wet spot. I put him on the dry and he went right over to my wet paper towel. Wow, that was pretty fast. This one's still kind of looking around and searching around. This one found the wet right away. Oh, here he goes. Watch him. Hey worm, what do you like? Wet, damp places or dry places? Hey worm. You know, that's a good question because they don't stay underground when there's a big rainstorm. They come to the surface. But I think that's because there's too much water underground for them sometimes. Uh-oh, we have an escapee. Check this out. How's your worm doing? Looks like you've got some worms. This one is still working on it. I wonder, I'm going to pick up my big worm again very gently and stick him over on the dry side and see if he comes back to the wet side. He's working on it. Wow, look at that. It's so fun to watch. So you can do this over and over again to see which side of the paper towel the worms like to stay on, the wet side or the dry side. This one isn't moving as much. This one just missed. Oh, he's looking. Oh, there's his head. Oh, he found the wet spot. He found it. He found it. Oh my gosh. So over time, you can see where the worm will stay, the wet or the dry. I think by watching this worm right here, that they like damp. They like things damp. I think so. All right, so if we ask a worm, hey worm, what do you like? Damp or dry? I think they would say damp. Not flooded with a rainstorm, but damp, damp, damp. Okay, so there's our one, and we're going to get another paper plate and another paper towel and a piece of dark paper. I have some black right here, and the question we're going to ask a worm right now is, hey worm, do you like it dark or light? What do you think? You think he'll like it light? Well, what I'm going to do is cut a piece of dark construction paper to block out some light. And let's see where our worms go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this piece of dark construction paper, and I'm also going to do, since I'm pretty sure that they like wet paper towels, what I'm going to do is put a wet paper towel down here. This one, I got a piece of paper towel and I folded it, and I'm going to wet the whole thing this time because we're testing one thing at a time. Last time we tested damp or dry. This time we're going to test dark or light. So I want it to be damp already because I think they like the dampness. So I put a whole bunch of water on there, and then I am going to put a dark piece of construction paper on there. And then I'm going to take my worms, hey worm, and I'm going to see if they try to get out of the light by going underneath the piece of construction paper. Let's see where they go. Whoop, hey. Okay, let's see where they go. Are they going to hide? This might take a while. We might have, oh, I bothered him. He's really, maybe he thinks he's going to get eaten by a bird. I don't know. Oh, he's crawling over the construction paper. I don't know. Hey worm, do you like light or dark? They have sensors. They don't have eyes, but they have light sensors on their body, which is very cool. And I don't know if it's all over their body or just, oh, look, here's one. He's crawling off the edge of the construction paper. Do you think he'll find where it's dark or light? Oh, come on, baby. Let's see. What are your worms doing? Well, my worms are crawling around. I might have to keep an eye on this and see where they end up in a couple of minutes because they are kind of searching around to see what's going on. I know they definitely like the damp paper towel, but do they like it light or do they like it dark? Wow. Oh, oh, he crawled right off the whole thing. No, you can't go off the paper plate, buddy, because you'll end up in my den. Okay, wait. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up out of the camera where, oh, look. Where's he going? Is he going to hide under there? Oh, check it out. He finally found a place to hide, I think. Is he going to go under there and stay? What's he going to do? I don't know. Maybe he'll disappear under this construction paper. Hey, worm, do you like it light or do you like it dark? We know you like it damp. Wow, so I'm going to do something else. You know, I have other questions about worms too. We're going to come back to this one and see if they find the dark place to hide or if they stay out in the light. I'm going to put mine over there. So let's ask another question about our worms. Hey worm, what do you like to eat? I don't know what worms like to eat or not. Boy, this worm right here, he's certainly staying underneath my piece of damp paper towel. And there's his mouth. I wonder what a worm likes to eat. You know, they're in the dirt all the time. They're in the dirt all the time. I wonder if they eat dirt. What do you guys think? Do you think worms eat dirt? Yeah, that's a good question. Let's find out. So let's go to our next experiment. And I'm keeping an eye on my worms over here on my construction paper. So what we need for this is a shallow pan. And you know what? I'm going to come back to FaceTime camera for a minute so you can see this better. Okay, here we go. Hey, whoops. Hey, worm, what do you like to eat? Okay, so I have a shallow pan and I have a lid for later. But what I'm going to do is I am going to put a bunch of dirt in my pan. But I'm going to do half, I'm going to put it nice and moist, but I'm going to do half just plain dirt that I got from the grocery store. It's potting soil. Plants like it, but I wonder if worms like it. And then I went out this morning and I dug a whole bunch of dirt out there. And when I look at my dirt, and I'll show it to you in a minute, it's got a lot of dead leaves and a lot of little bugs and a lot of roots from plants. And it really looks different from the potting soil that I just bought. No, it's just really plain. So what we're going to do is we're going to do half potting soil, half dirt, and half dirt from outside. And so if you don't have potting soil, if you just have some dirt, that's okay. Just put it right in there. Whatever you have, put in half. And I think I had everybody gathering some wet leaves and stuff from outside. So there's half my pan. And I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so hey worm, what do you like to eat? There's my potting soil. And then I am going to scoop some of the stuff that I got from outside. It has way more than just dirt in it. It's got little pieces of leaves. And it looks like it's got chunks of everything. There's even little sticks and things like that. I'm going to make sure that both sides are equally wet. So I'm going to have to put some water in my potting soil. But this is all damp because it got rained on last night. Whoa, and I'll show you this up close underneath the camera when I get in there. I'm just scooping right now. So what I did was I scooped half and half. And now that I've got half and half, I'll put it under the camera on the table so you can see what I'm doing. All right. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Here we go. Back to the tabletop camera. Okay, so can you see there's half with practically just plain old dirt, and then half with lots and lots of rotten leaves and little bugs and wet sticks. And so I am going to put some water on both sides so it's damp on both sides. Now this one, if you have some worms, this one, it might take a while to see the results. But I'm putting water, whoops, there we go. I'm putting water in both sides so it'll be nice and damp for them. And then I'm gonna find a bunch of worms and stick them in there in random places. And then I'm gonna give it a day or two and see where they traveled to. Okay, so now I have my worms. Hey worms, what do you like to eat? Do you like to eat dirt, or do you like to eat the things that are in the dirt? So I'm going to put some worms in here. 1 worm, 2 worms. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? What are they going to like? The side with all the leaves and dead stuff? Or the side that was just kind of dirt with not too much in it? There we go. So I'm going to put them in there. Now, this is what you're going to have to wait a day or so for to see where your worms go. Are you going to find any worms on the potting soil side, or are they all going to go over to the side with the dead stuff? I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction, and I'm going to say that when I take a look and start digging around to find my worms, in a couple of days, I'm going to find all of them over in the side with all the dead stuff, because I think there's more things to eat here. Look at that. Little pieces of leaves, little tiny leaves, and little tiny bugs. And all kinds of great stuff here in the dirt that I got from outside. I think they really, really need some things that are in that soil to eat. And that's what worms do. They eat the leaves and then they poop it out, and it makes the soil richer. Now, I don't know if you've seen little balls of dirt in the on the wet ground, but little teeny tiny balls. They're called worm castings, and that's actually worm poop. They eat all the dead stuff in the soil, and they break it down. Here's a little piece of leaf. Look at that. And things like that by eating them, and then they enrich the soil by pooping out the other end with the worm castings, and they make the soil richer for the plants. There we go. So anyway, so you can set it up and actually see which side they like better at the end of a couple days. And okay, so do they eat dirt? Do they eat the dead stuff? They eat the dead stuff that is in the dirt. Hey worm, that's a really good idea. Okay, so now we have one more thing to put together. And I wonder, the question that I'm going to ask the worm this time is, hey worm, what do you actually do? What is your job? And to do that, now if you have a worm bin, you probably have seen some of this already. So we're going to you can make a worm farm if you brought with you today, a jar, actually any jar. Now this is a small, I'm going to make a small one, but if you want to make a really big one, you could get, a big plastic jar like this. And you can see what worms are doing inside the dirt all day long. They're constantly moving around. And so we're going to make a worm farm in a jar. So I'm going to make layers so we can see what they're doing and where they're going inside the jar. So what I'm going to do is put a layer of my good old outside dirt soil, because I know that they have some things in that dirt that'll help feed my worms. And I'm going to put them in there. And I am putting a bunch of dirt at the bottom of my jar. And when they're crawling around under there, under the dirt all the time, hey worm, what are you doing? So now I'm going to add a little bit of sand so I can kind of track where that worm might be crawling and where it might be going. Now, a long time ago, people used to think that worms were pests. No, they actually do good things for the earth and the soil and the plants. So I've got a layer of dark soil. I'm going to put a little layer of sand on top of that with a scoop. There we go. A layer of sand. And this is another little project that will take a couple of days to watch and see what happens. Okay. All right. So here's another layer of my outside dirt, my great outside dirt. So you can do this in a big jar or a little jar, and I'm doing a little jar today. Whoops, there we go. And one more layer of sand. Whoops, let me get some of this. And then we'll watch them over a couple of days and see where the worms are going. Okay, so some more dirt. Whoops, why am I making a mess? I love making messes. Okay. So also, because my sand is a little bit dry, you can add just a little bit of water. Whoops, here's my water. There, I've got sand in layers in my jar. Okay, a little bit of water to keep it moist. Don't want too much. There we go. And then, then if you put the worms inside the jar, they're going to burrow down. You put quite a few worms in there, as many as you have. Put a bunch of worms in there and watch where they go. Now, what you also do with that is, because worms, oh, right. If we think that worms like dark, and they actually, I think in this case do. I remember our dark and light experiment. Where did my worms go? I don't see any on the edge of the plate right now. Where are they? Underneath. They definitely like dark. So to make this experiment work really well, you want to make sure that you make it dark in the jar for them, so you can watch them when they come to the edges and watch where they're tracking and moving. So you take a little bit of construction paper and that's dark and wrap your jar, and you can take a little bit of tape and tape it all around. And so it's nice and dark in there. And so the worms are going to be moving around up and down through the soil, and watch and see. See if you can see in a couple of days, when you take the construction paper off, you'll be able to see the worms traveling up and around and down, and where they've tracked through the soil, because they bring the lighter sand up through the darker soil and back down again. They will come to the edge. Because it's nice and dark, you'll be able to see where they go. Oh, and mine already went to the edge. Can you see? I'm going to turn on the, this is pretty cool. Right before my eyes, this worm has started to do its thing already. Let me show you. Can you, oh, maybe you can't see. Oh, wait, gotta find where, there's the worm. Can you see him crawling around in there already? There's a lot of light shine. But there's the worm. Can you see him? He's crawling right there. Starting to mix the soil. That's a worm's job. They crawl around through the soil, eating the chunks of dead stuff, decomposing everything, and mixing the soil to make it richer for the plant. They'll move some of this soil all around, up and down. And so make a worm farm. Take this off in a couple of days and you'll be able to see the evidence of the worms mixing up the soil. That's one of their jobs. Plus enriching it, breaking down all of those dead leaves. So that is our Ask a Worm session today. So, hey worm, do you like it light or dark? You like it dark. Hey worm, do you like it damp? Uh-oh, guess what? I lost a worm. Oh no, do you like it damp or dry? Definitely damp. And hey worm, look at what you do. So I hope you had some fun looking at the worms up close today. And that's it for First Step Science, and we'll see you again next time. Something I had never ever seen before. And here's where you get to make a choice. Was it a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex? And I'm just gonna stick some pine cones in my box, and then the fun starts. I just start rolling them around. Air rushing out of the balloon is going to push that balloon up. So let's see what happens. All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow. So that's how rockets kind of work. We are going to build 2 different kinds of rockets today.
Cork on his